We are here because we are dedicated to helping the entire CrossFit community. Determined to elevate coaches, box owners, athletes, and everything in between, we believe that this mission will begin right here, right now. While this time and this goal begins with you, our hope is that you take this fire ignited within you and weave it into your own life with the same unrelenting passion to give those you have the privilege of coming in contact with the best hour of their day.
Vern, what's your current diet look like?
I eat what my kids eat. Last night I ate my son's chicken nuggets.
You know, that's a big thing. I've worked with, realistically, thousands of clients, and pre-baby, you would always hear that, like, oh, my kid didn't finish his fish sticks or his chicken nuggets or his mac and cheese. I'm like, cool, you don't have to finish it for them, but
I don't have to. I just genuinely wanted to. Yeah, they were good. I had the tuna bowl that was lackluster, and I was like, give me those things, like, because he was running around breaking things, like, and I was just like, I don't feel like chasing you around right now. It's a public place, but you're a toddler. People will forgive you. Just, I'm gonna sit over here and eat your chicken nuggets.
Where were you eating that you had a tuna bowl and he had chicken nuggets?
There's this place in the kind of like the southeast corner of Virginia Beach called Sage Kitchen. It's actually pretty cool. It's a nursery, not like for kids nursery, like a plant nursery that has a restaurant in it and like a shopping area, and then it has like a big outdoor seating area they have live music there all the time, and they have putt-putt, and they have like a really big playground for the kids. It's not an idea that you'd think would work, but it works. So people go there and then just hang out. So we go there, we let the kids run around. It's like one of the few places you can go and just like let your kids go at a restaurant. Be like, just go, just try not to fall off the second story of that playhouse.
Sounds like
I have a very
when we get to Virginia, Katie.
Yeah, we have to go there. And I also have a very important follow-up.
You'll definitely fit in the little Hobbit house, Jay, that they have there.
It's size for him. I have an important follow-up question about the chicken nuggets.
Right.
Go for it.
Were they dinosaur chicken nuggets?
No, those are not actual chicken nuggets, because chickens are not dinosaurs. Nor were they shaped like dinosaurs. They were actually really good, and the breading was like a little weird. But no, that was just last night for dinner.
Wait, before you answer my actual question, did you order more than you knew Chappie could eat purposely so you can eat more?
No, he's a crapshoot. Like, he'll eat a full-grown person's meal or not eat at all. So he's a weird one. Largely what we do is we just kind of carry food around in our pockets, and just as he runs by, we just jam it in his mouth, and then he just keeps going. He's like the Energizer Bunny, just never stops. So we just feed him on the go, hoping that he doesn't fall down and choke on it. He's a nightmare. But anyway, my current nutrition looks a lot like intermittent fasting. And I will state this on the front end. It is not intentional. It is just a lifestyle I have gravitated into.
I do fasting almost every day, but the reason I ask is you, me, Katie, we've been around the CrossFit space for quite some time. Nutrition is...
Katie, how long you've been in the CrossFit space? I don't even think I know this about you.
First of all, he has legs, so
right.
A lot of unknowns.
Did you compete in the adaptive? Did you compete in the adaptive category in the Open, Katie? Are you a seated athlete?
Yeah, you guys will find out in a couple of weeks. I've been doing CrossFit since 2016.
Okay, so 6 years or 5 years. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
that falls in the veteran. I think that falls in the veteran category.
5 years.
Wow, look at me.
Yes.
Yeah. Reasonable.
Yeah. Okay.
Really, based on the programming lecture, typically like 3+ years is your athlete, right? So one of our clients, Chris Anderson, suggested we start a GoFundMe page for Katie.
For what?
For her new legs.
For my new legs.
I think we already talked about this. Yeah.
Just like Lieutenant Dan. I got legs. No, but nutrition has evolved over the years. One thing that I've said, as part of Own Your Eating, and we've kind of taken it as part of Best Hour, is don't eat like an asshole. We have the t-shirt that's available. Katie will drop the link somewhere. anytime I wear that t-shirt or someone that's worn it tags me, and it's like people love it because it resonates. So let's talk a little bit about what that means, because for so many people listening, they have a direct impact. Not only do they coach movement, not only do they coach, the mental side of CrossFit, but they coach nutrition. So what does "don't eat like an asshole" mean? Or what should we be telling people about nutrition in 2021?
Where do you want to start? Which one of those? Those are two very different questions.
Well, let me answer the question, because it came from the audience. Don't eat like an asshole. To me, that just simply meant, look, realistically, most people listening to this podcast, and I would go as far as saying most people that are inside the CrossFit affiliate, most, not all, understand what healthy is and understand what healthy nutrition is. Now, some people don't. Like my parents, for example, think they eat healthy, where they eat almost exclusively carbohydrates, right? That looks
like my
like wake up, you have a bowl of cereal with orange juice and a banana. For lunch, you have some fruit. Maybe you have a little bit of turkey meat with it. For dinner, you have a salad, again, not enough protein. But for the most part, I think the average CrossFitter wouldn't argue with you, hey, broccoli's probably pretty good for you. We need protein. We understand the value in that. Donuts are bad. And again, I think everything in moderation, including moderation. I lost weight eating donuts, eating Cinnamon Toast Crunch. But the idea of like, don't eat like an asshole.
Best cereal of all time.
Is that something we agree on? Two things in this life, Fern. Dave Matthews Band.
Dave Matthews and Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
So, don't eat like an asshole to me implies, one, just don't overdo it. Like, have a donut, but don't be a complete asshole about it. And also it means, yes, especially in the macro space, meaning macronutrients, you can lose weight like I did eating Cinnamon Toast Crunch. The idea of don't eat like an asshole came from my realization that, like, hey, while I may be losing weight, this may not be the healthiest decision to only eat Cinnamon Toast Crunch, not eat some fruit, not eat some vegetables.
Yeah, I think, and I'm very happy that they have shifted or added the nutrition lecture to the level 2, because I think the flavor of that nutrition topic is very good, right? It has very little to do with macros and the science of food or physiology or any of that stuff. And it has a lot to do with, if almost predominantly, with psychology. And again, anybody who's taken any nutrition course worth its salt for the most part understands that the hardest part about getting people to eat better is not teaching them macros, like what is good versus bad. It's just getting them to do it. So when I hear somebody say don't eat like an asshole, I think what kind of pops into my mind is don't make up stupid stuff to justify you eating things, right? You getting a call? Is that from the donut guy? He's making delivery?
Did you hear that?
Yeah.
Did you hear that?
No, I just said that because I didn't hear it.
Yeah. This day and age, when your phone rings, like 18 devices ring.
Yeah, I hate it. So that's what I think about when I say don't eat an asshole. Is like, I don't actually care if people like cheat or do whatever. What I think is silly is people fooling themselves. Like, I would prefer that you're just eating ice cream and be like, this is really bad for me, but it's good. I'll pick it up tomorrow. Like, cool. I think that's a much healthier, realistic place to be. And that's where I recommend everybody get to, is just like, listen, when John Wellborn used to talk in his seminars, when he would even the CrossFit football stuff back in the day, he would give this advice. Oh yeah. And he would just be like, listen, best nutrition advice I ever got. Don't be weird. Just don't be weird, right? Just like, if you're going to eat things that are not good for you, just acknowledge that they are not good for you. Don't come up with some weird scenario where like, yeah, well, they're paleo brownies. And I'm like, that is the most asinine statement of all time.
Well,
that's not a thing.
Sherwood used to say that, but I really like what you said. Don't lie to yourself. I think that's a great way to kind of summarize what don't eat like an asshole. It's like, better. Don't make an excuse in your head, like, and I put something up recently of like, the correct amount of Oreos is always one more. And you could probably say the same thing about chicken nuggets, and you can say the same thing about, yeah, and that's where it's like, when I did macros, people were like, oh, I can lose weight eating Oreos. Absolutely you can. However, you're still going to need to figure out where that cutoff is. There's no magic behind it. And I could have easily gone back into the pantry, open up that box of Oreos, pull out the next sleeve and had another one. One thing I always recommend to people is make the foods that you really want to eat, like Oreos, a little harder to find. In other words, maybe don't put them in the pantry, or maybe put them on the top shelf. So like me, you have to get out the step stool, or put them in your basement. I have a client that keeps some junk food in her car, right? And she has to go outside if she wants to get it. So yeah, don't lie to yourself. But
just to add to that, this kind of goes back to the previous podcast about like, it's okay. It's okay that you had a cheat meal. Like 100% never not measuring or never coming off of track, barring some sort of very severe scenario in which eating this food is going to cause you some sort of anaphylactic shock, or you're going to really cause physical harm to yourself. Outside of that, it's okay. It's normal. Like that is actually one of the biggest hurdles, is that people not accepting the fact that it's not actually that weird to live in the 80-20. It's actually pretty fucking good.
I think it's a necessity in this day and age, right? Too many people live in that 100, which very quickly becomes living in that 0. You, for example, yeah, you may have had a couple chicken nuggets, but you've also fasted most of the day. You probably also ate a couple of other, higher quality things. And even if you didn't, you are understanding, today's Thursday, and I can reboot. I can restart. Too many people let one chicken nugget become one bad week.
Right. And just having and I exercise 3 to 4 times a week with high intensity. I rarely sit down, have a standing desk. I'm standing all day long. I'm active, all those kind of things. And now here's where you could label me eating like an asshole. I could take all of those things to then justify eating like shit, which would mean eating like an asshole, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to say it is a buffer. However, I will fully acknowledge it is not ideal and not something I should promote.
I want to take a sidebar real quick. Standing desk. I stand at my desk all day too, and it's just the norm.
Right, but your desk is a normal height
really
for a standing desk.
Probably is, actually. But I have a stand-up desk here, and I just come downstairs and I don't even have a chair in here. Like there's no. Yes, it's one of those electric ones that I could lower and sit, but I'm just so accustomed at this point to standing that I was telling somebody about it recently. Like, don't you get tired? And I'm like, well, one, I don't think you should get tired from standing. Like, it's pretty, we talk about, essential and natural in CrossFit, like pretty essential. I mean, sorry.
It is uncomfortable when you first start to do it, though.
Like, I know it's, we don't mean to offend you, Katie, if you can't in fact stand.
Well, I'd stand if I could,
It is uncomfortable though when you first start doing it, right? It's not. When I first started, because if you're going to stand for 4 or 5 hours, like it's not like the most comfortable. That's why I always tell people to get like a block or something to put your foot on so that you can change your position. As long as you can change your position, you can stand for a really long time. That little sidebar for everybody, a little nugget. So, if you go to a bar, Jay, you've never been to a bar because you're not old enough. But Katie, when you go to bars, they have that rail at the bottom of the bar that you put your foot up on. Yeah, that's there for a reason. And I think Kelly Starrett brought this up years ago, like way back in the day, is that like when people put their foot up there, it's a more comfortable posture and they will stay at the bar longer. That's why it's there.
Wow.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Right.
Where I was going to say also, I think some of it comes from just being a coach for years. There's not many jobs out there where you stand all day. And coaching
outside of labor, like outside of some sort of labor job,
Yeah, right. But you can say coaching is some sort of laborious job, but
oh yeah, for sure.
But I just got used to it. And you mentioned, moving positions. I bought one of those mats on Amazon, partly because where I was standing,
Like the little squishy ones?
Yeah, they're a little. It's a little squishy,
Right.
but it's got some rollers, so I can put. It's got a ball on it, so I can kind of dig into my feet. But where I was standing became like brown, and Roz came down, and she was like, "Did Rocky poop over here?" And I was like, "No, it's just my feet." So we actually, we had it steamed, and then I got one of these mats, so now it's not brown.
When I was when I was growing up, we used to call those Winn-Dixie feet. So if anybody's from the South, like, what Winn-Dixie is, like, grocery store, but like in the South, like, people, you'd have like little, basically feral children just running around there in their bare feet, and their feet be black by the end of the day. So you'd call them Winn-Dixie feet because you're the little heathen running around bare feet all day, and your feet were just disgusting.
It's funny because it wouldn't matter if I showered or whatnot. It was just I'd always have this brown spot down here. So anyway, I've got a mat. But back to were you going to say something, Katie?
I was going to say that maybe it would help if you did laundry more than once every few months. But
sick burn, Katie. Sick burn.
Guess what, Katie? We are sharing an Airbnb, and you're going to have direct knowledge of how dirty my feet are.
Dirty
That's
ass.
good.
So, going back to don't eat like an ass. Where would you say this was the part 2 of the question? Like, what are we telling CrossFitters these days? You and I both agree, as part of Affiliate University, it's like, hey, you need to talk nutrition. 80%, if not more, of how your members look, feel, perform, etc., is going to be dictated not by what they do in your box, but what they do outside of the box. That extends to beyond nutrition. It extends to sleep, stress, etc. But some people are coming into Rife or wherever you're coaching these days. What are we saying to that?
This is there's a lot of layers to this question, by the way. There's some that people are not even aware of. But so for years we didn't talk about it at all.
Right?
Which right. Yeah, we just didn't. Because it's uncomfortable, right? Like, you either don't have enough information about it, or you're not ready to field questions, or you don't have the kind of, in air quotes, expertise in order to deep dive and help people with whatever that is. That's a journey, right? It's just like coaching. When you first dive into, and it's like everything else. If you're not getting reps in on having that conversation and learning to navigate that, because it can be a touchy subject, you will just tend to avoid it, which is, I think we could agree, incorrect. Because if you think about what we would preach in the level 1, if we talk about the nutrition lecture, our contention is that if you're not doing some variation of like weighing and measuring your food, eating high quality in combination with constantly varied function movements executed at high intensity, then you are not, in fact, doing CrossFit. And what we're saying is you cannot separate the two, right? Like, there's so many ways that this loops in, right? So we think about the theoretical hierarchy for the development of an athlete. Nutrition is the base of the pyramid. So fundamentally, you can't get to sport or the best version of yourself without addressing that. If we think about the leading sentence in World-Class Fitness in 100 words, it is a statement about food. So separating the two is not even reasonable. The problem is how to have the conversation, right? So then how do I start to have that conversation? And I think it's best to just open the door for conversation and then educate over time, and then let the conversation come to you. But I do think people should be having the conversation on the front end.
So one of the things you mentioned, and I think you're probably just kind of throwing it out there in this moment, but it's weighing and measuring, right? First of all, I agree with you. People forget. It's like they start CrossFit and then they just chase fitness. And we just had a call with Greg Amundsen in our private coaches group, and and one of the things that he spoke about was not allowing CrossFit to take over your life, right? Too many people put it at the forefront, and whether it's your entire life or simply your health and wellness aspect of your life, it's like I've often said there's 4 pillars to fitness: sleep, stress, nutrition, and fitness. I'm sorry, I should say there's 4 pillars to health: sleep, stress, fitness, and nutrition. If one of those has to go, it should be your fitness.
Some of them are out of your control. So I think of just, we have a ton of nurses here for, I don't know, no particular reason, but a lot of them work shift work. So immediately, sleep is not something they have total control over. They do have control over everything else. I think what you're
Well,
trying to say. I think what you're trying to say is like knowing what those pillars are, you can start to determine which ones you have more or less control over.
absolutely. People, first of all, the reason I find that statement important is because you 100% have control over your nutrition. Very rarely is someone forcing you to eat something. You may be in a social situation where you look weird if you don't, but again, that's your call. I've been in situations where I don't want to eat something and I'm like, I look like a weirdo and it's worth it. But again, you have control over that. Very few individuals have control over their fitness from a standpoint of I'm programming the workout, right? Your members show up at Rife and they're like, today's handstand walk. All right, I guess I'm handstand. Obviously there's scaling, there's adapting, etc. But we often just think I don't have control over sleep and stress. While you don't have maybe as much control, you have control over how you react to things, i.e. your stress. And then when it comes to sleep, you're right. I mean, we got a 5-month-old baby monster who wakes up all sorts of hours. I don't have control over that, but I can dictate, do I try to go to bed earlier? I can dictate what my bed feels like as far as, keeping it cool. And the fact is, the less control I have over those things, in my opinion, the less important what you're doing inside the gym is. Because if you're busting your butt inside the gym and not sleeping and high stress, you're going to wind up either hurting yourself or overtraining or, a host of other things that can happen.
I think, and this might just be semantics,
Probably.
but I somewhat disagree on the control aspect, right? I think to some degree control is an illusion. So, I mean, because for, addiction, right? Just to say like, and food can be an addiction. I think we would be remiss to say that somebody with an addiction has control. Right now, they do have choices, right? But they may not actually have control when it comes to making those decisions, right? Like we all have some aspect of that, whether it's, money or food or anything. Like everybody likes something where like I have the opportunity to make a decision on this, but I don't necessarily have the self-control to do the right thing. And this is where I think the education piece comes in, which is because really what we're saying when educate is give people opportunity or options to make better decisions. And that will start to lend itself to something that looks like control or feels like control. And I think the first thing is remove ignorance from the equation, which is, hey, I'm not going to assume that you know what a protein and a carbohydrate is, because I definitely have people that do not know that. And I'll start the process of education, because with education, then we could start to develop something that would resemble control. And because I mean, you all know this, like Jay, you've worked with thousands of people on that. Like, I mean, I would tend to agree. I would tend to think that you would agree that like many of them do not actually have control. Like they're trying, but they don't technically have control.
Yeah, no, I think, yes, it's semantics. And, I think you and I are both very strong-willed, and, control looks different, right? Like sometimes people are like, you don't get it, I'm addicted to sugar. And I'm like, I hear you. Part of me struggles. And this was what I've learned as a nutrition coach for years. It's like, you can't put your own beliefs, thoughts, and philosophies on other people, right? Like it's very hard for me as a coach to wrap my head around sugar addiction, because yeah, I'm addicted to it as well, I guess. Like, and I don't say I guess, like when I say that, it's like I want sugar. It tastes delicious. The difference between me and other people is like I have a very black and white mentality when it comes to nutrition. No different than carnivore. People like, oh, you're doing carnivore, that's easy. No, it's not. I want to eat spaghetti. I want to eat mac and cheese, right? I want to eat chicken nuggets. I won't if I'm on my diet. Like when we're in Virginia, maybe I'll be a little more flexible. Maybe I won't. I don't know. I'm going to have to assess when we're there. But yeah, I mean, to answer your question, a lot of people do lack that control, or they don't have that control. And that's a challenge. You need a support system. I think a lot of people that lack that, maybe they're married to someone that isn't as, supportive as they think. They go away on a week vacation, come home with a box of chocolates, thinking they're, doing something nice for their loved one, when in reality, it's like bringing, a a case of beer to an alcoholic, like you said.
Yeah. So I think to kind of bring this home with regard to making this practical for a coach or an affiliate, and this is, you'll go through bouts of this with people who are dealing with depression or people who are dealing with addiction. And again, to kind of do a little callback to the previous episode, which was it's okay. What I don't want to do is introduce shame into this thing, right? Because now the conversation is cut off. They're not open to the idea of change. They feel judged. And it's
Brene Brown over here talking about shame.
Right. And it's easy for us to just be like, hey, just don't eat it. Right. That's easy. But honestly, that is easy for me. There's a couple things I truly don't understand. Like I do not, and I'm very grateful that I don't understand them. Right. I do not understand addiction and I do not understand depression.
You as a human being are saying that?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Like I just don't deal with those afflictions. And again, thankfully, right. So I do spend what I think is a lot of trying to understand them and trying to create empathy for them. But if you were to ask me like, hey, what's it like to be depressed? I'm like, I literally don't know. I have no idea what it feels like to be in that state of mind. I was gifted with a couple things: extreme love for myself and long suffering, right? Which is like, I think I'm pretty cool. Okay. And I don't feel bad about that. And I have this weird innate ability. I was thinking about last night. I was going on for a long walk like last night. And I was just like, why am I okay with that? I literally don't know. I have no concept of why I'm okay with long suffering. Like, I'm just like, put me in the pot, boil it. I'll deal with it. It's fine.
Your military background probably plays a role with that, but
I don't know. I was like that before. I almost called my dad on the walk. I was just like, hey, do you have any idea why I'm like this? Like, what did you do something to me as a child? He probably did. I don't know, but like, but the point is, I think it's important to have a little bit of awareness. It's kind of like the coach who just has muscle ups. And it's just like, you just get up there. I just don't understand why you just can't do a muscle up. And you're like, listen, knucklehead, you can do that. What you just did is quite literally unfathomable to that person. And so I think we need to think of nutrition that way. And we have to consider how long the journey for us has been, which is like, you and I have been in this game for 13, 14 years. We've had thousands of conversations. We've tried many, many things and failed at them and have now developed what is a lifestyle, which is going to be hard to break that lifestyle. It's going to be hard to put me in a rut of eating like shit for prolonged periods of time. I'm just not going to do it. I don't like it. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't fall in my habits at this point. However, I'm fully aware that other people think that what I'm doing is patently insane.
Well, I think a few things you've said we brushed over the Brene Brown, but she's a great author, and I highly recommend coaches checking out her book. She's got too many to list right now that I've read, I think, all of them, and I've listened to them multiple times. But when you talk about shame, you talk about empathy, like Brene Brown should be one of the first people you think of. I highly recommend her. And that's what you're saying. There's you understand who you are. And I tend to agree. Like, I don't understand addiction for that reason. I have friends that are in recovery some for alcohol, some for drugs, some for other things, gambling. And it's always been something in my mind where it's like, things are black and white. Like, okay, this isn't good for me. Stop doing it. And I've never had a problem, but that doesn't mean others don't. What you're understanding, Fern, and what you're basically saying is you have empathy for those people. And it took some time, and you mentioned you live this lifestyle. Like, I was eating cheese regularly, and then I cut it out about a year ago. And I've very rarely, maybe 3 times since then, have eaten cheese. And I freaking love cheese. Like, sharp cheddar cheese is my jam. And people are like, well, why don't you have it? I'm like, because I feel bad after it. And that's enough for me to be like, okay, you're no longer having cheese. Like, the idea of the 10 seconds of joy I'm going to get from this food is not comparable to the 24, 48, 72 plus hours of suffering I'll feel. Maybe
72 hours.
Depending. I eat a lot of cheese.
You got some weak genes, dude. You definitely don't need to.
Well, and part of it is not just how do I, my stomach, my stomach will be off. I'll feel lethargic.
I get it. I'm just saying that, like, bottom of the
beard
gene
gets
pool is
itchy.
what I'm saying.
My beard actually gets itchy and dandruffy. So
Yeah,
that's
You know what? Well,
we
you know
kill you.
what could help.
Get it,
shower.
Katie.
Come on, Katie.
I was
Come on.
just gonna say.
Your jokes, Katie. 'Cause they're
Well,
not funny.
what could help with your beard is if you use some Doc Spartan.
Whoa, Katie.
I knew where she was going. Jay thought she was gonna tell him to take a bath,
Oh,
but
she's
I knew where
great.
you were going.
Her words hurt. So, I'm just trying to protect myself, but you're absolutely right. So, full disclosure, maybe it isn't the cheese. Maybe I started using Doc Spartan and my beard cleared up. I don't know. Maybe I should have some cheese and test it. I think it's a little bit of both, but yeah, my youthful looks are definitely a result of Doc Spartan. Use the code best hour, save 50%. The coffee eye scrub, or I'm sorry, the coffee gel, the coffee scrub, all those good stuff. Actually, Fern, you and I will we'll share a shower and use some Doc Spartan while I'm in Virginia.
I
I
can't.
have a hard time
wait.
reaching my back.
I can't wait. Yeah, I mean, your arms are incredibly short. I see that. You can't even put them over your head. You're like a small kid, and they can't put their hands on their head. Their arms are just so short and their head's so massive. It's you.
So, where do we begin this as a coach?
So, well, I think it's understanding the same concepts that you would understand coaching in fitness, which is you have to meet people where they're at. And in order to meet somebody where they're at, I first and foremost, I have to seek to understand. Like, I can't just bludgeon people with concepts and principles about nutrition. It should largely start by asking a lot of questions like, hey, what are your thoughts on nutrition? Is it something that you think about often? Is it something you're concerned about? Or do you not give a shit? Whatever. Just give me your general thoughts on the idea. And they're like, whatever. I like Cheese Whiz. Okay, cool. Well, now at least I have a concept of where you are on the spectrum. And now I can I can tailor the message based on where you're at on the spectrum of has no idea what a macro is and doesn't care to, I'm Jay Ackerman and haven't not measured a meal in 8 years, right?
Yeah, and I think you can go off the deep end, right? But it's still important to remember, I think you gave a great analogy of that coach that has a muscle up, basically forgot what it was like to not have one. It's just in their DNA. Like, you look at the WOD, you see muscle ups, you just, okay, how many do I have to do? Okay, 7, 5 rounds, cool, no problem. And we forget what it was like. What's that? What's so funny?
No, anytime I see somebody do that, like at a seminar or something like that, like the first thing that comes to mind is like, that's no way to make friends. Like, everybody hates you now.
Yeah.
Right. Which is actually a very good analogy for this, which is like, don't be overbearing, right? If you're gonna we understand the concept of don't eat like an asshole, which is like, don't lie to yourself. Right. But that it also extends the other way, which is like, don't be an asshole about nutrition. Is no way to make friends. Right. And if I want people to start that journey of like at least learning or being open to the concept of changing their nutrition, I can't be an asshole. Right. So I think sometimes we should think about who's the recipient of the message. We're like, and we get it. Like, the shirt's fantastic. It is by its very nature hyperbolic, which is the point. But that doesn't always go over well in the gym. So it's fair and should be considered. Who is this person? Are you doing it during your onboarding? Are you doing a workshop for people that have been there for 2 years? That delivery looks very different. Like, they're probably open to discussion after 2 years. If it's their onboarding, they're 40 pounds overweight, they had severe anxiety about simply just walking into the door, you telling them that they should go clear their pantry of all grains and sugar, probably won't land well. At that point, you are the asshole, not them for eating poorly.
Well, there's a reason we say, don't talk about religion, politics, or nutrition. And for all three of those, I think a big reason we use those, as funny topics not to discuss is because everybody innately has their own belief system, right? And it's very hard to change someone's mind on any of those three because it's something you've been ingrained with since you're a child, whether it's commercials. I mean, I grew up eating fat-free cookies, trying to make weight for wrestling because my parents had me believe fat was the bad part and I can eat as many cookies as I want because they were fat-free. Like, that took a long time to change that mindset, and then go into bodybuilding from there. And then it wasn't until CrossFit. Like, I mean, I grew up like breakfast is the most important meal of the day, 6 small meals a day to get your metabolism going. You know, flash forward 25 years, I fast 20 hours almost any, you know, I usually eat within a 2 or 3 hour window every day. I love it. If someone walked into my box and I'm like, oh, by the way, you can't eat for the next day, they would leave, right? Like it would take time to get there. If somebody was like, hey, I'm interested in learning more about fasting, I'd be like, cool. Can we skip dinner? Like, I'm not dinner, sorry, distracted by Lindsay. Can we skip breakfast? You know, hey, okay, if that's a struggle for you, let's not even worry about a 16-hour fast. Let's just, you know, eat dinner a little bit earlier, push your breakfast back a little bit later and get to 12 hours, right?
Right.
But like you said, it's a matter of meeting people where they are. Don't eat like an asshole, but don't be the asshole pushing nutrition on people.
Right. And I think it just starts with a general discussion, which is one of the things we teach people about onboarding. Is like, you should have the discussion, but the discussion should be superficial, right? It should be very, very high. Nothing that would resemble, you know, Renaissance periodization or macros or zone or intermittent fasting or right.
Questions too.
Questions, right? or just presenting the most basic information, most of which probably doesn't have anything to do with nutrition, like actual food, like macronutrients.
Well,
macronutrients.
That was what I was going to say earlier. I got a text from somebody that I highly respect in their field, and you know, I can you know summarize it. But it was basically, I want to lose 10 pounds and figure a way to stop eating for comfort. This is a smart dude, right? He's not saying, hey, can you teach me about what's healthy? He's basically saying, like, I eat for comfort, which we all do. I mean, every night I fast in part because I like to feel like a sloth on my couch getting downtime at the end of the day.
Right. And so, yeah, he's saying I use food to cope. And I was like, okay, well, cope with what? Like,
So
what is it? Right. What are we coping
what
with?
I'm going to go with when I write back to him. All right, we're going to wrap up this. You can find the t-shirt, right, Katie? You'll post the link, Donate Like an Asshole, as well as checking out Doc Spartan, Best Hour. If you want to look pretty, check out Doc Spartan. But Fern, let me ask you one last question before we wrap this thing up. You mentioned CrossFit football. I'm throwing down, we do Cal Sue when I'm in Virginia.
It's one of my least favorite workouts of all time.
Thank you. So let me give the quick story. I think I've told it before. Cal Sue comes out of CrossFit football probably circa 2009, 2010, when CrossFit football was exploding. I'm like, I can do this. For the record, it's 100 thrusters at 135 for men, 95 for women. Every minute, you have to do 5 burpees.
Yeah.
Me and a bunch of the other quote unquote fire breathers at Albany CrossFit at the time put 135 on the bar. 0 of us finished. 0 of us finished this. I'm about to get another call. There we go. Decline. Then we go back to 95. We finish it. We go back to 115. We finish it. Eventually, we work our way back up to 135. I was the only one to finish it. I wrote to John Wellborn. If you Google Cal Sue and my name, I think to this day the article will come up on the CrossFit football workout. Katie's already Googling. I see her. I see you Googling. Tell me if it's still up there, Katie. But anyway, it was one of my proudest accomplishments in CrossFit, and I don't think I can do it again.
It is, I know this to be fact. It is the last workout and maybe one of only a handful, I could definitely count them on one hand, that I quit.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
I remember exactly where I was and what I was doing. I had full plans on like doing, because I have done that workout in something to the tune of about 11 minutes before.
Oh, that's crazy. I took like 27.
Oh, I quit at 15. I was like, yeah, fuck this. I'm not doing it. Right.
I can grind. Like you said, especially in fitness, like I can just suffer for an extended period of time. So I was doing like 3 thrusters a minute, 5, like I could do that forever. So I'm asking you, program it at the box Friday that we're in town.
135. Are you going to scale it?
I don't know. I'd have to warm up and see.
I can't. I would love to watch you do that.
I think I can finish it at 115. I would struggle at 130.
You mean you're just going with just finish, no particular time frame?
Oh, I think the accomplishment in that workout is finishing. Yeah.
Okay.
Katie, did you find it? Am I in there?
Yep, I found. You didn't lie this time. I found
This
an didn't fib, but yeah, I found.
What to listen to is like that. Understand is Katie's our employee. Like, what other job you get to act like this? And let me be clear. What these listeners hear is nothing compared to the digs she sends us via text.
They're way better. They're way better. You guys think I'm harsh? Katie's the roughest in the group.
What did you find, Katie?
Well, I found it's actually pretty cool. It looks like John published. You wrote him a note, and then he published his response. You guys going back and forth. So that's what I found. I can post this.
Yeah, man. It was a post that. Share that with people. Maybe. Yeah. Why do I get the echo, Katie?
Because you suck.
I don't know. I don't think it's me.
I got the best setup over there, and anyway. All right. Well, hopefully that sums up "Don't eat like an asshole." Any last thing? Any vernacular you want to throw in there?
Yeah, just consider how that you would start having this conversation, but you should be having it. So that's the thing. If you're not, what I would urge you to do is figure out how to start having it, on the outset, because we know the how paramount nutrition is in this whole journey. And at some point we're going to have to have that conversation very seriously. And it's much easier to have if we've had it in a very casual nature from the jump. You'll have way more success with people. They'll be more open to it. And at the end of the day, they'll have much better results.
So you never miss an episode of the podcast, subscribe to our YouTube channel and on all major podcasting platforms at Best Hour of Their Day. Thank you so much for tuning in and for being a part of the best hour of our day. See you next time.